What's up, Grace Girls? Welcome to the Allow Yourself Grace podcast, where we focus on helping Black women change their lives by discarding negative thoughts, pivoting in the right direction, and shifting their mindset through cultivating a trauma free lifestyle. I'm your host, Courtney Christten, educator, content creator, life coach, counselor, and mental health enthusiast living in Houston, Texas. I created the Allow Yourself Grace podcast because I wanted to create a space for Black women to share their thoughts, feelings, and stories that make them who they are without fear of judgment. Allow Yourself Grace provides emotional support and encouragement within the Grace Girls community for women in need of non biased opinions from women other than family and friends. Personal development, self care, career, faith are among many of the topics we will discuss on this platform. Allow Yourself Grace podcast is here to encourage Black women to live unapologetically and thrive in being authentically who they are and were designed to be an entire vibe. No topics are off limits. We will cover it all. Now, grab a notebook, pen, sit back, and enjoy the show. What's up? What's up, Grace Girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Allow Yourself Grace podcast. Guys, I'm so happy to be back. I'm excited for this new season to continue the journey and to give you guys great content. Today, we will explore the complexities of the human experience. So, I kind of want to dive deep at this time, like during the podcast. I feel like I've been doing it for a while, and I just feel that it's time to go deeper. And so, that's exactly what we're going to do. In today's episode, we're going to dive into the profound season of isolation. During this time of the year, I often find myself navigating the season of isolation. You start off, it's the new year, you're kind of, putting your plans out there. Sometimes, depending on what stage you're in and how everything's going in your life, it's like you're celebrating a ton of things and you're moving around and you're moving around. And then it becomes a point in time in that first quarter of the year where you just start to be still, right? You start to not move so fast. You want to slow down. You want to focus on your goals. And sometimes that requires you being away from maybe the people that you're used to being around constantly. Um, this is a season where many of us find ourselves in at some point in our lives. Like maybe you're not there or maybe you've never been there, but I think at some point in your life, you will find yourself in this season. And I'm calling it navigating the season of isolation because you can be isolated, but it's something about learning how to navigate while you're in that season because it's easy to shut down in a season of isolation. So, join me as I navigate the challenges of being isolated, guys. I want to reflect. I want to talk about some lessons that I've learned during this season. So, let's get right into the episode. So, first of all, let's talk about the definition of isolation because we hear the word, we hear the word, we hear the word, but sometimes we don't know the proper or need I say formal definition of the word isolation. So, I wrote it down. It's the state of being in a place or situation that is separate from others. That's family, that's friends. Maybe you're saying no to going to events. You're turning down things. You're not doing so much. You're sitting quiet and you're working. That's being separate from people. Or maybe you're fasting. Like a lot of times during this time of the year, because we're really close to Easter. And so Easter's in March this year. We're really close to Easter and
they do this thing in certain cultures and depending on your religion called Lent. And so during Lent, you give up certain things. So some people give up soda, fried food, alcohol, all these things until after Easter. And it's a season where you should be able to get a lot of clarity. Maybe you're connecting with God more, you're exercising more, you're getting outside, you're getting some sunlight, you're taking a break from TV. These are all things that you can do during Lent to help prepare you. And I think this is a perfect time to isolate and kind of cut some things out so you can get a clearer vision on how you want to navigate the rest of your year. And so that's the season that I've been in, and I'm sure some of you can relate to where I'm at. And, oftentimes in this season, it's easy to get lonely if you let the burdens of the season overtake what God is really trying to do in your life during this time. Okay. Some of you may have missed it. It's easy to get down and to start to focus on your burdens in this season because you have so much time to be alone. And I think the scariest thing um, about this season is being alone because many of us suffer from I can't be alone. I need to always be out. I need to always be doing something because in our heads, we tell ourselves that if we keep busy, if we stay around people, if we fill up our schedule, that we're being productive and that we're not lonely because we have people around us. But many of us are sitting in crowds and we have this full schedule, but yet we still feel lonely. And I think when you're forced to sit by yourself, it really, really, really pushes you to just lean in and listen and really, really lean on God during this season. And if you don't believe in God, to each his own. And this may not be the podcast for you because I do like believe in God and I talk about God on my podcast. It's not a Christian podcast, but I do talk about him because I do have a relationship with him. So if you have a relationship with him, you kind of know where I'm going with this. It's like when you sit alone, it forces you to really just sit with God and get to know who he is and spend time with him learning yourself and learning about where he has you in this season and where he's taking you. Um Defining isolation can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be social. So, physical isolation is I'm physically not around people. I'm kind of to myself. I'm at home. I'm just going the places I need to go. I'm not really interacting with people on a social level. The social isolation comes in there, like where you're not going to parties, you're not out, you're not attending events, you're kind of just taking time for you. And emotional isolation happens a lot in relationships because maybe you're not sharing how you truly feel. Maybe you don't want to share. You're kind of sitting on your emotions. You want to sit in your emotions and process them, and that's okay too. We all need these things. We all need this time to navigate these times of isolation. The next thing I wrote was recognizing the different reasons why people may find themselves in the season of isolation. So there can be positive reasons why you find yourself in a season of isolation, and there also can be negative reasons. So one of the negative things I find is that people have literally burned all of their bridges. Like they literally did everybody wrong that has tried to help them. They have they did everyone wrong. They've slapped people in the face that literally would have given them the shirt off of their back. These are things that they've done to cause themselves to be in this season of isolation. So it could be self-inflicted. right? Or it could be positive, where it's like, okay, I need to separate myself so I can focus on my goals. I can focus on where I'm going. I can have a clearer vision, and I can be sitting with God to really figure out how I need to navigate this season. So those are my two that I find that are most common for people. So that's one negative and one positive. It's just that sometimes we self-sabotage by mistreating the people who really, really tried to help us. So now we're isolated, we're out on our own. Our family doesn't really want to deal with us. Our friends, they don't want to deal with us because you burned every bridge. And so sometimes you have to sit back and self-reflect during that particular season of isolation to say, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do different moving forward in order for people to want to be around me, for people to want to interact with me? Like, what can I bring that's positive to the table? Because one thing about people is that we don't want to be around people who's bringing us down, or people who we feel like are using us, or people who we feel like are going to do the same thing. Like, they say they want help, you try to help them, and they continue to do the same thing. And so that's when it forces you to sit with yourself, because it's like we can no longer play the blame game about who's doing what when people have literally stuck their necks out for you, and now you're alone and you want to throw a pity party and act like no one helped you, but really you're the cause of why you are in the season that you're in. So it can also be self-inflicted. Now, making the choice to isolate is something that I've done during this season, and I'm enjoying where I'm at. I'm at peace. I feel free, I feel lighter. Some of you guys can probably tell if you've been with me throughout the different seasons of this podcast, then you kind of know, like, maybe her aura is different, her vibe is different, her face looks different, because I can see it. So I know you guys can tell as well. I made the choice because I felt like I needed clarity on some things. And so I want to talk about my experience with isolation. Um, Sometimes when you're in the frame of a picture, like you're in the frame, you can't see it. Like, you can't see what's inside, you can't see what's going on. So sometimes stepping out of the frame to take a look at the picture, like a long deep dive, study the picture, analyze the picture, you know, pick out what's good, pick out what's bad, and figure out a game plan on how you're going to make the picture better. All right, that's the analogy I like to use. So, what I've been doing during this season is I literally stepped out of the frame, and I have to look at every area of my life and how I can improve it, how I can make it better, and what I'm going to do better moving forward. And this is me taking accountability. This is me seizing the moment, being grateful for every day that I wake up and I have a chance to live my dreams. And I have the opportunity to analyze and to self reflect and to isolate and just spend time with God and spend time working on my goals and my dreams. I'm grateful for that. That's a gift. It's not something that we have to have. And so I think a lot of times we forget that nothing has to be given to you. No one has to give you anything. God is not obligated to give you chance after chance after chance, but because he allows us grace and because he has mercy on us, he chooses to do that. And that's the same way with your family and your friends. They choose to forgive you when you do things wrong. They choose to be a part of your life and support you where they feel like they need to support you and where they feel like you need the support the most. That's a choice. And so we have to make the choice as growing human beings, as, you know, adults, to reciprocate that same energy. And I think the only way you can do that is by spending time alone and learning who you really are. Just sitting in silence, like, you hear so much when you just sit. You hear so much when you just work on you, when you drink water, when you eat healthy, and you just your mind is clear. You don't have as much brain for fog. And studies have shown this. Like, this is not something I'm just saying, but you can research it yourself. Like, when you do all these things, your life just becomes so much better. Every area of your life, you become better. Um, Exploring loneliness, disconnection, and solitude, it just brings you peace. It brings you joy. It brings you a sense of freedom. And I love it for me. And if you haven't done that, or maybe you feel like you don't have the time to do it, like, create the time. Create the time. Because I think so many of us don't know our purpose. We hear it a lot. Find your purpose, find your purpose, find your purpose. But you may not know exactly what steps you need to take to do that. And the number one reason that I see, and that when I look at people and I look at, like, what they post on social media, kind of what their daily activities are like, just having a conversation with them, what I find the most is that people don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. They haven't taken the time to self for self-discovery. And it's just such an amazing place to be in when you discover who you are and whose you are. And when you tap into both of those, you become so powerful. You become a person that you didn't know that you could become. You do things that you didn't realize you had the power to do. You're like, oh, wow, is that me? It's almost like having an outer body experience. Like, wow, I've seen how much I've grown. I see the future. I see what God has for me. And I'm okay with everybody not seeing it, because you haven't sat where I sat. You haven't experienced what I've experienced in order to see what I see for my future. And I think when we become okay with, I am who I am, I'm growing, I am I know who I am, I know whose I am powerful, I am strong. When we constantly affirm ourselves and we're taking the actionable steps to be the person that we know we want to be, and we know that we can be with the help of God and with us putting in the work, then we're unstoppable. No one can stop you when you overcome the negative mindset, when you overcome the fear of starting, when you overcome the fear of taking risks, you become so powerful. And I just believe that's what the season of isolation does for you. Now, there's going to be times in the season of isolation where you're like, okay, nah, this is boring. I need to get out. I need to, like, the devil is definitely going to be running around in your mind during that season when you're trying to isolate and you're trying to get better, because he knows it, and he knows how powerful you're going to become once you master that negative mindset. Like, once you conquer it, like, nah, nope, I ain't trying to hear it. I'm still going to push forward. Once he knows that you realize the power that you have, he's going to come harder. He's going to come stronger. And I think the best way to cope is to seek support. You have therapists, some of you have spouses, some of you have family, you have friends, maybe that, are the person that's your go-to person. Those are the people that you want to keep around you. Those are the people you want to keep having the conversations with. practicing self-care, making sure you're loving on you during this season, making sure that you're reading, you're writing, you're constantly pouring into making you a better person. That's what you want to be doing during this season. You don't want to be around people who are trying to talk you out of being alone. Like, hey man, I know you said you were fasting, but let's just go eat. Let's just go eat, man. I want some fried fish. You can have a little bit. No, you want to be around people who support you that say, oh man, I brought you some fruit and some vegetables because I know you're not eating fried food right now. Like that's just an example, but those are the type of people that you want around you that's going to support what you're doing. They're going to support where you are and they're going to encourage you to achieve your goals. They're going to support your dreams. I tell my husband, he has one friend, he supports him. And I was like, I went, you can always depend on your one friend. And I have friends like that too. Like if nobody else shows up, I know they're going to show up. And vice versa for him. And it's like those are the type of people you want around you. Like they may not even know or have an idea about what you're trying to do or where you're trying to go, but it's like, hey, that's my friend. I support them. And that's how it should be. Like those are the people you want around you in this season of your life. Finding meaning, reflecting on a deeper meaning. Um during these periods, embracing the solitude, self-reflecting. Some people journal. You know, journaling is definitely a way to self-reflect. Just taking time to meditate. Meditation helps. Taking time to work out. Like I like working out. I listen to my podcast, I listen to my music. Sometimes I read the Bible during that time. Sometimes I work out in silence. Sometimes I ride home in silence. I like to ride in the car in silence, like just having moments of solitude. That's all it is. It also enhances your creativity and it forces you to explore new things. I've become so creative in this season and I've gotten so much work done. Like it's and I'm not doing it all at one time. But I'm like doing chunks. So when I sit down and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna light my candle, I have my coffee, I have my window open, I'm working. Those are the best moments for me. Even like right now, when I'm recording this episode is in the morning. So my mind is fresh, my thoughts are fresh. Like I'm like, okay, God, what do you want me to talk about? What do you think I should talk about on my podcast? And since I've been in this season, he's given me so many topics. I have them stored up for you guys. Like whenever he gives them to me, I write them down, but I like to study them. I said I was going back to my iPad because I don't want to leave out anything that he gives me. Because, like I don't know if a lot of you have been in front of the camera, but if you're a podcaster or maybe you do any type of content, you understand like sometimes you have a whole plan and you're like, I didn't say any of that. So I wanted to make sure that, I don't have to hit everything, but I wanted to hit the main points and talk about how being in a season of isolation helps you explore new things. You have new projects. Like there's just so many things. And then when you come out of the season, you're ready. Like you're just like, oh my God, I accomplished so much. And so even I'm not telling you to isolate throughout the whole entire year. I'm telling you to do what's best for you, but I'm also telling you that if you're gonna choose to isolate, like be productive, I want you to have the tools to be able to navigate this season. And I want you to know that it's normal to have seasons of isolation. Like it's totally normal. It's something that we all should do at some point throughout the year. We live in a hustle culture. And so sometimes we feel like we have to rush. We look on social media, we see what everybody else is doing. We feel like people are ahead of us. We feel like, maybe somebody's doing more than us, but it's like that's not even the case because we don't know their journey they have to go through to accomplish the things they accomplish. Run your own race at your own pace. Like run your own race at your own pace. That means that Looking at other people and their accomplishments should only be motivation for you to continue on your journey in your own way. Because I'm never going to be able to do something exactly like someone else. I may look up to them, I may like, great job, like give them their props and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I have to navigate life the way it works for Courtney and not look at what everyone else is doing because I have to do it my way. And that's okay. We can all do what we're doing in our own way and still be successful. So in the season of isolation, getting that creativity going is that's a blessing for me. I love that because that's what I do. It's what I do. And it really helps me. It helps my business. It helps my personal development and my personal growth. Also, too, what I've done in this season is rediscover my purpose. Like, I know my purpose, I walk in my purpose, but it's something about rediscovering it and redefining it. It's almost like fine tuning. Like when you get a tune up on your car, it runs better, it runs smoother. You know, you're like, "Oh, I'm running smooth. I don't hear the bumps when you get those tires rotated." It's kinda like that. It's kinda like servicing a car, like servicing your mind, servicing your body, your spirit is important so that you can continue to live your purpose, walk in your purpose daily, acts of service, just continuing the personal development and embracing your imperfections. It teaches you how to embrace your imperfections. So, I want to lose weight, and I've talked about this on many, many episodes. I've talked about this. I talk about it all the time. And the first step for me is accepting where I am and visualizing where I'm going. And so once I learned that, I'm like, I can see and feel the difference in my body. I can see and feel the difference in my body. The thing about it is we want overnight results, right? Every woman does. We want to eat a salad one day and be skinny the next day. It don't work like that. And so once I've accepted that, okay, this is a process, this is going to be a journey. I accept me for me. I'm accepting me for where I am. And as long as I'm continue to work at it every day, I'm going to see progress. Eventually, I have no choice but to see progress. And that's kind of how we have to treat this season. If I continue to isolate, if I continue to take action and work every day, because you can isolate all day, but if you're not working and you're not cultivating your gifts, then nothing's going to happen. Newsflash, it's not going to happen. But if you're putting in the work and you're processing the thoughts that God is giving you, you are taking in everything that you're learning during this season, you're going to be successful without a doubt. Without a doubt, you're going to be successful. You're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to be ahead of people. You're going to run circles around them. Okay. I'm all for camaraderie. I'm all for collaboration. But at the end of the day, if I put in more work than you, I'm going to be further along than you. Even if we're on a different journey, I'm still going to be further along than you. And it's good to have healthy competition. So even if you want to create like a little competition between you and your friends, if that's going to help you get going, if that's going to keep you motivated, whether it's working out, whether it's eating healthy, whether it's oh, well, I have a friend that she has the same goal as I do. And I'm like, hey, we're going to do check ins. And so I checked in with her last week and I'm like, hey, how far are you on this? And she's like, oh, da da da. Da. I'm like, okay, I'm here. She's like, man, I got to catch up. So it can be healthy competition. It can be positive things to help you push each other to move forward. So continue to find people around you that are goal driven, that are go getters, and it will help you get where you're trying to be. And it'll help you see that you're not the only one. Like, even though you're isolating, it's okay to like check in and be like, hey, where are you? Where are you? Because everyone knows that during the season of isolation, you should be working. Like, I'm not telling you to be rushing, but you also should be taking action while you're alone, while those creative thoughts are flowing, while God is giving you vision, why I can't say while for some reason, while you are sitting in solitude, writing down your thoughts, journaling, doing all these things, you should still be taking actionable steps to help you persevere and get to where you want to be. All right. As we conclude today's episode, just remember that you're not alone in your isolation. Whether you find yourself in a season of solitude by choice or circumstance, may you find solace in knowing that this too shall pass. Find solitude in knowing that this too shall pass. It's only a season. All right. It's only a season. You're going to look back and say, man, I accomplished all those things that I wanted to accomplish. You're going to look back and say, I feel good. I may have lost somebody that was really, really close to me, but right now I'm okay. I'm at peace with it. Like, this too shall pass. I remember, I'm going to share this really quick before I end the episode. I remember when I lost my mom, and I was 23 when I lost my mom. And I literally, after the funeral, I was alone for a good maybe 4 to 5 months. Like, I didn't really interact with people. You know, it seems like when you lose someone close to you, everybody's around when it first happens. Like, everybody's coming around, everybody's asking if you're okay. Your phone is constantly blowing up. But once like a month or two rolls by after, it's like nobody really checks on you. It's kind of like people forget. And that's normal. Everybody's going back to their regular life, and they just get busy. But you have so much time to sit alone, and you cry, you laugh, you looking at pictures, you're thinking about all the good and the bad and the happy times. You're thinking about everything. You're thinking about how you're no longer going to have this person in your life. So you have this void, and it forces you to push through. Like, it forces you to get back to the norm, because it's like, I can't sit here, I can't stay in this space. And so I say all that to say that when I look back on it now, I'm like, man, I've come so far in my life. But at that point, when I was in that season of isolation, I felt like I was alone. I felt like I wasn't going to get through it. I didn't know how I was going to get through it. But by constantly working and trusting that God had me, and that I was still here for a reason, and that I had to continue to push through, and I knew that's what my mom would have wanted me to do. And I know that, like, she'll be so proud of how far I've come. Like, that's what kept me going. And so I just believe that this too, it shall pass. This season of feeling like I'm not where I want to be, this season of feeling like I'm alone, but I'm also growing. It's a tough spot to be in. But also, too, I know that this too shall pass. It's gonna get better, guys. It's gonna get better, and we're gonna look back and be like, I did that. Okay? I did that. So may you find solace and peace in knowing that it's gonna get better. So join me next time as I dive into a whole new topic, but I want to kind of keep everything relevant and connected. And so we're going to continue to dive in and to dive deep. Um, this is Women's History Month. It's Women's History Month, and I want you to start now, if you haven't started, creating your history, because a lot of us are a walking Black history. But if you haven't started, like, it's never too late. It's never too late to start to write your story. It's never too late I meant to say it's never too late to start to rewrite your story and to create the life you want and to create the life you deserve. All right. This episode was created by me, by moi, and produced by OM2H Creative Studios. Some of you guys may know, some of you guys may not know, but I am the co-owner of OM2H Creative Studios. And so they produce all of my content, which is my husband. Usually he's out there, but we do also have workers. Um, and I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you are not following the podcast page on Instagram, please make sure that you go and follow us at AYG underscore allow yourself grace. That's AYG underscore allow yourself grace on Instagram for all the episode updates. Anything new will be announced over there on Instagram. If you're not subscribed to the channel, because if you're watching me on video, go ahead and subscribe. If you're not, still go over and subscribe to YouTube. I'm going to have the link in the show notes if you are listening, and hit the notification bell. And so you're notified every time I drop. And so I will be dropping still on Wednesdays, okay? On Wednesdays at 12 noon. And so make sure you're tuned in. And I also will be having my bonus episodes, conversations with Courtney. Definitely still in the mix. You guys seem to love those. I'm thinking that most of you guys are listening to those on your way to work, on your way to school, wherever you're going. So I want to thank you guys so much for your support. And if you're in Houston and you're looking to launch your podcast, you want help doing that, I'm definitely here for that as well. The link to the studio page will be in the bio. All right, I'll talk to you guys later, and I love you all. Peace.
Well, guys, that concludes our episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Allow Yourself Grace podcast. For additional information about today's episode, please click the link in the show notes below. To learn more about our Grace Girls community and other resources we have to offer, head over to www.allowyourselfgrace.com. Until next time, Grace Girls, I love you all, be blessed, and continue to strive for success.